Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in the Yukon, where RCMP say property crime is on the rise in Whitehorse. Businesses downtown have suffered multiple break-ins this year. And as Liam Baker tells us, some store owners are now working together to address the issue.
So we've got wind chimes, we've got knives. These get stolen a lot. Even these guys right here, just about anything gets taken.
Alina Kanak is the assistant manager of Paradise Alley. She says there's been a dozen attempts of theft at her store in the last month alone.
A bunch of these style hoodies taken, and I'd show you the other one, but the last one was actually taken just the other night.
And many other downtown businesses are facing the same problem. She says law enforcement can't solve the problem entirely, so they've taken it amongst themselves to identify the culprits.
So we try our best whenever something happens in one business. We talk to other business owners. We're like, hey, this happened, especially for those of us that are all on Main Street. We're like, hey, this happened at this time. Does anybody have any information? Or if you see this person, call our CMP, let them know, but it's constant.
Kanak has gone as far as posting security cam footage of thieves on her store's walls, and she says other business owners frequently come in to check it. Luke Panton is the executive director of the Yukon Chamber of Commerce. He says mitigation must be a collaborative effort that involves local communities and the police.
Perhaps community patrols could help build a little bit more trust. Other areas or other aspects that some individuals have put forward is youth outreach programs.
Panton says that rises in property crime go beyond losses in businesses. He says business owners are concerned about rises in insurance costs as well. Liam Baker, CBC News, Whitehorse.
RCMP are investigating an incident in Iqaluit that happened this morning. Police issued a shelter-in-place alert at around 10:30 a.m. It was lifted 2 hours later. Police told people living in the Plateau neighborhood to stay inside and expect a lot of officers in the area. RCMP went to the scene and pointed assault-style rifles at a building in the 5100 area. An ambulance and the RCMP's emergency response team were also there. Even with the shelter-in-place order, police say there was never any danger to the public and that the situation has been resolved. The RCMP did not say if anyone was arrested or charged. A lot has changed for the Northwest Territories Human Rights Commission in the past 4 years, and according to its annual report, it's changed for the better. That report went before the Territory's Legislative Assembly today. It talks about how the Commission used to go back and forth between parties. Tempers would flare, companies would lawyer up, and in the end, nobody was happy. Now, it's focused on restorative justice and helping the sides understand each other. The CBC's Shannon Scott spoke with Charles Dent, the Commission's chair, about how that change has made a big difference.
It was basically just fighting, rather than trying to resolve the issue, and that's really, we could see that nobody was feeling satisfied with this. The people who were complaining, the people who were responding. So complainants and respondents both told us this system isn't working. It's not helpful for us. We don't like it. And even the people who came out and maybe had the decision in their favor would tell us afterwards that that wasn't a reasonable or fair process. We used to have in the range of 25 to 28% settlements before going to a hearing. We're now typically over 60%. So it's at least doubled in the success rate, getting people resolving their own issues with the help of our facilitators, rather than going through a court-like process and having to figure out how to bring evidence, how to talk about precedent, and all those things that used to be required if you went to a legal hearing.
That was Charles Dent, the chair for the NWT Human Rights Commission, speaking with the CBC's Shannon Scott. Restrictions on tourism in Nunavut's high Arctic have been extended for another 5 years, despite an ask from the Nunavut government to partially open the area. Earlier this year, the Nunavut Environment Department asked Ottawa to allow some specific tourism and recreation areas in the Tuvailtuq Marine Protected Area. The federal government placed the area under a protection order in 2019. That order was put in place to allow the Kikitani Inuit Association, Government of Nunavut, and federal government enough time to work on long-term protection for the area. It's located on the northwest coast of Ellesmere Island, and it's expected to be one of the last places with multi-year ice. The protection order has now been extended, contrary to what the Government of Nunavut wanted. There are some exceptions in the protection order, including for Inuit harvesting rights. Tomorrow is the first day of school for most Yukon students, and the Territory's Education Department says its schools are almost fully staffed. 24 positions are still vacant, according to an update from this morning. One rural school in Faro is still looking for a principal. Another in Whitehorse still needs a vice principal. The department is also hiring 4 more First Nation language teachers, and there are 18 general teaching vacancies.
Attending job fairs across the Canada, where so we're recruiting at that level. We're also ensuring that we're connecting with universities and colleges that teach northern and remote First Nation, Indigenous education.
The Yukon Education Department is responsible for 21 schools. The remaining 11 schools fall under the First Nations School Board. Federal public servants will have to work from the office more often, starting in 2 weeks. Hybrid employees are now mandated to be at their workplace 3 days a week, and executives need to be there for 4. The change was announced in the spring, and as Jocelyn Chappelle reports, reactions from workers are mixed.
Federal public service workers are divided on the change. While some say it'll cause unnecessary problems for them, others welcome the extra in-office day.
I have to now coordinate some of my personal aspects of my life and figure out how that's going to work. So, but you know, there's been somewhat sufficient notice on how that's going to go down.
Not everyone agrees with the switch. The backlash over the 3-day office mandate prompted several protests over the summer. Several unions say they weren't consulted, and that the May announcement came as a shock. Critics say different departments have different needs.
It's at the detriment of not only workers in the federal public service, but it's at the detriment of the services that we provide to Canadians, because we've been able to prove that we're able to provide these services from remotely, sometimes more effectively, more productively than in the office.
The union says their members are sharing concerns about work-life balance and how they'll get to the office. Those in support say it'll increase productivity.
I can appreciate that change is difficult. I can appreciate how this impacts people individually. I think I would urge them to reflect on what it can mean to serve as a public servant, serve Canadians.
The government is encouraging managers to discuss the transition 2 weeks from now with employees to help identify any barriers that may need considering. Jocelyn Chappelle, CBC News, Ottawa.
Oh, imagine how good the TV's gonna look now. And spoiler alert.
No! Don't panic.
Don't panic.
Cut to. Well, we're not cutting to.
Which ladies want to watch?
Look out! It's drama.
Oh.
I'm ready for it.
Triple. Homicide accepted.
Everything all right here?
Yeah. Is there a problem?
We got a call about a disturbance.
I just think there's something really off about this guy.
I've lived through today, this day, before. I need you to believe me and tell me I'm not completely crazy.
What would you be prepared to do if you had one more chance?
Anything.
Welcome to Plan B Agency. Select your desired destination.
Breaking news that shapes your world. With local CBC Radio 1 Live to connect us closer to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want, where you want. On the CBC News app. Download for free.
Imagine how good the TV's gonna look now.
Oh, God!
This is incredible.
Did you know this?
As if.
Could the pressure be any higher?
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie. Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Winnipeg's Inuit Resource Centre has expanded and community members are excited. Tungasugit's new location in the North End gives Inuk Winnipeggers a place to connect with the community and enjoy a taste of home. They're also celebrating a recent policy change that will make it easier to access health care. Michaela De Los Santos has that story.
So here we have our reception.
Tungasugit. It means welcome in Inuktitut. Here in Winnipeg, the nonprofit has expanded their location to be able to welcome more people.
You know, historically, Inuit never had a place to come to and gather and feel like they were a part of a community.
Nikki Komakshatiksak is the executive director of Tungasugit. She says from Monday to Thursday this summer, the building is open for community members to drop in, use a computer, wash clothes, and have country food like caribou, Arctic char, and maktak.
I feel so like I want to cry every single time I see a community member walking in and their jaws are dropping on the floor because they see the space. Because prior to the space, we were just in over 1,200 square feet of space, which is really a 2-bedroom house.
For Inuk Winnipegger Kelly Hayes Makayak, the drop-ins are what connects the community.
Because we all in Nunavut gather together all the time. And now that we're living in Winnipeg, it's a little bit different. We're very separated.
The new center in Winnipeg is just one of Tungasugit's victories. Back in July, Manitoba Health changed its policies to include Inuit identification to register for the province's health benefits. Before that, it was hard for community members to get a health card.
When we were finding that the majority of our community members were actually being denied and or could not get their Manitoba Health Care card because Manitoba Health did not deem Inuit territorial cards as a form of identification or lineage to the land in Nunavut.
Komakshatiksak says that it took a lot of sweat and tears for the change to happen.
We have community members and staff that have actually died because of this barrier.
While Winnipeg is home for Hicks Makayak, they say connection has and always been a big part of the Inuit culture.
In Nunavut, we really do rely upon each other, and we have been for thousands and thousands of years. It's just who we are as a community.
Michaela De Los Santos, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A statue of Chief Monfrey was unveiled by the Clon government on Friday at the grand opening of Betchakon NWT's new cultural center. It's bronze, and it was designed by artist Daryl Chocolate. It commemorates the signing of Treaty 11 on August 22, 1921 by Chief Monfrey. In his opening speech on Friday, Betchakon Chief Clifford Daniels highlighted the statue's features. It depicts Monfrey holding a drum in his left hand, symbolizing the Cleton way of life. His right hand points forward toward the Monfrey Goa Denikle. That translates to the line that Monfrey drew as part of the land agreement.
Like I said on the map, we do have his boundary that he drew back in 1921 on behalf of us, I guess. And he's done quite a bit. And the treaty signifies the relationship and partnership too we have with government. So we strengthen that with having our own modern treaty. So it signifies the relationship we had in the past and to the present day.
The floral designs on the statue are based on the sewing of Mary Rose Simpson, great-granddaughter of Monfrey. Chiefs from Wakwati and Gamati were also present for the historic unveiling. The Fireweed Festival returned to Fort Smith last weekend, a year after being canceled due to last summer's wildfire evacuation. Organizers worked tirelessly to showcase the talent of the South Slave. The festival is a vibrant celebration of music, art, and community spirit. A revolving roster of musicians showcased their skills, including a youth fiddle group that participated in a workshop during the festival.
The Fireweed Festival is such an important event, first of all, because there are so many
excellent musicians that come out of Fort Smith. I've been in the music scene for decades here in the North, and I'm not kidding. The best names in music like Shane Daniels and Tom Hudson and Gerald Putchett, they're all from Fort Smith. Pat Burke, and it's such a tiny little town. It's kind of off the beaten track, and they have all these wonderful musicians. The favorite part today was when we practiced for it. We've got a spot on the main stage tomorrow. This is huge because some of these fiddlers have only played 1 or 2 times, and we were able to pull off like a couple of tunes with all levels of fiddlers playing, and it just gave me goosebumps.
45 musicians were featured over the weekend. There was more music live at Dirty O'Fergie's and a teen dance at Anna's restaurant. Queen Elizabeth Territorial Park hosted the bulk of the festival, where participants had access to a variety of food, crafts, and art vendors. Attendees were even treated to an antique car show. The Canadian Grandmasters Fiddling Competition wrapped up in Whitehorse over the weekend. Canada's best fiddlers took the stage at the Yukon Arts Centre to battle it out for the top spot. This is the first time the competition has been held in the North, and it was held alongside another first, a Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit. We caught up with Summit co-chair Boyd Benjamin and the winner of the Grandmasters competition.
It was a huge undertaking to take on, to create a Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit leading into the Grandmasters. And so, but we wanted to do that because we had an opportunity. We saw an opportunity to bring kids from the North, because the Grandmasters have never been North before. Seeing these kids do what they do just warms my heart. It warms my heart. For hundreds of years, we've danced and played fiddle, and we do that as to celebrate when we feel happy. When we want to feel happy, we dance, we play music. They're going to leave here now with the stories for the rest of their lives, with music in their hearts, and that's what it's all about.
Ethan Hardy.
Every year it's gotten tougher. The competition is just that much tighter, that much stiffer. The players are getting better, and so that makes it just that much more of an honor. So I played Mike and Aileen's waltz as a Calvin Vollrath tune. He was one of the judges. That's just an old-time waltz, and I'm an old-time player. That's where my heart is at. That's the type of tune I like. And the second tune, Angus Chisholm's jig, that is kind of more of a Cape Breton or an Eastern Canadian flair, has lots of drive, lots of feel that I can lean into. The reel is Griffith's hornpipe, again, old time, lots of drive. And then the East Tennessee Blues, which was the tune of choice, kind of more of a bluegrass kind of tune, lots of ability to do some improv and some double stops and things to kind of set it apart. So, and I love the tunes.
Another special moment during Saturday's event, which, by the way, was hosted by the CBC's Ellen Jones. 3 Northerners were all inducted into the Canadian Fiddle Hall of Honor. From the Yukon, Joe Luchin, the fiddler on the loose. Luchin recorded 4 albums and toured as far south as Mexico and as far north as Ellesmere Island. From the Northwest Territories, Angus Bolio, a master Dene Métis fiddler. Bolio mentored generations of fiddlers and graced local and national stages for almost 70 years. Finally, we have Colin Adjin from Nunavut, the fiddler of the Arctic. Adjin created the first all-fiddle album in the NWT and received both a Golden Jubilee and Diamond Jubilee medal. It's no secret that times are tough for small-town newspapers across the country. The same can be said for outlets that focus on Indigenous news. Declining ad revenue and a news ban on social media have meant major changes at many publications, all at a time when Indigenous people are still underrepresented in Canada's newsrooms. But there are some who are making the best of these changes and others who are still determined to inspire the next generation of Indigenous journalists. Ethan Williams brings us that story.
It's day one for these students at First Nations University of Canada. They're part of a course on journalism and broadcasting run by the Indigenous Communication Arts, or INCA, program. For Jada Bowden-Herney, it's a chance to come back to where her career started. She's a graduate of the program, and she helped create this week-long course. She believes media outlets need more Indigenous journalists.
They like to say that they have room for spaces for us, but then as soon as we show any signs of our past trauma that has happened to us, usually we're not met with open arms. We're kind of pushed aside.
A 2023 survey of around 6,000 journalists in Canada found around 5% identify as Indigenous. That's down from 6.4% in 2021. The number of Indigenous journalists in newsroom leadership roles has also dropped steadily since then. Bowden-Herney says more Indigenous-focused news outlets could be part of the solution.
You have more opportunities for Indigenous people, but you also have more room for them to be who they are without feeling like they are living in this colonial world that doesn't fit for them.
Hey everybody.
Carrie Benjo hopes these students can come work for her. A reporter for 2 decades, Benjo took over Eagle Feather News, an Indigenous-focused news outlet, in 2021. In February, the monthly paper went on hiatus after Meta's ban on Canadian news tanked its ad revenue. Now, after some financial restructuring, it's come back as a quarterly magazine. Benjo says advertisers and many nonprofits rely on the publication, and she and her team still wanted physical copies for readers without internet access.
We do know that our stories are still needed, the public still needs it, the community still needs it, so we're going to do our best to meet those needs.
As some papers make changes, others are just getting started. Dan Senek is the publisher of 2 weekly newspapers in the province. Now he's started a publication solely focused on Indigenous news. He's using reporters and editors at the other 2 papers and some freelancers to compile stories.
It's a profile of Saskatchewan Indigenous people, positive stories, so promoting what people have accomplished from those communities. These people will have then untold stories, and we're coming across them every day, so it's something we feel that should be shared with the readers of Saskatchewan.
About 10,000 copies of the publication are sent to Indigenous communities across the province each month. For now, the paper has no online presence, so it's not affected by Meta's ban. And its wide reach means advertisers are interested.
So you guys filmed your promos, or are you guys about to?
We were just about to.
Just about to, yeah.
Back in class, this next generation of journalists is getting ready to record a podcast for an upcoming powwow. And Hannah Scott is making sure the audio levels are just right. She's not sure where her career will take her, but the third-year Inca student knows she wants to work with Indigenous communities. Scott also knows her involvement in Indigenous media can lead to reconciliation.
I didn't want to be, taking up space as a non-Indigenous person, but I knew that there was room for me to be there, to be a helper and to be someone as an ally and an advocate for, and, to help raise Indigenous voices instead of standing in the way of that.
For Jada Bowden-Herney, seeing that excitement in the students reminds her of when she was in their shoes.
We're throwing things at them and they're just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do an interview. I'll do a streeter. And they're just confident. Seeing that confidence in this generation just makes me so happy, because I just feel like the next generation, we're in good hands, I think.
Even with an uncertain media future, they'll work together to keep telling stories. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Regina.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you tonight with a final tune from the Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit and Grandmasters competition in Whitehouse. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
Hi. Yeah, you can come on over. I'll be right there.
I feel better already.
It's got to come from the heart.
I will cry.
You're so together. Spicy. Now we're all just getting the sillies.
How much more connected do you want to be?
Yeah.
Is this a team meeting? Because I'm part of the team.
See you there.
I've lived through today, this day, before. What would you be prepared to do if you had one more chance?
Anything.
Welcome to Plan B Agency. Select your desired destination.
And spoiler alert.
Cut to.
Well, we're not cutting to.
What ladies want to watch?
Physical activity helps you feel younger, so you can age better. Everything gets better when you get active.